Even with peace on approach, Israel is bombing Gaza. Tonight, a direct hit on a house with many sheltering inside. This little boy survived, but others like him did not. For a moment today, those who loved them probably thought they might have a future, spared of such horror. What a misplaced dream. What a hideous tragedy to die on the day that peace was said to be coming. To die without knowing the peace that the world is talking about. When the deal was announced, those who've lived under bombardment in Gaza dared to believe. Celebrating the prospect of peace and the hope that finally they may live to see a tomorrow denied to nearly 70,000 others. In Israel, where the collective trauma of October the 7th haunts, finally a promise that the hostages taken so long ago were coming home. Dead or alive, they will be returned to their families.
Well, what do you guys have to say to President Trump?
The hostages will come back. They're all coming back on Monday.
In Egypt, the negotiators' handshakes were for deliverance of a deal no one had been sure of. A month ago, Israel tried to kill Hamas's leaders. The deal kills their hold on power in Gaza.
وقد تسلمنا ضمانات من الإخوة الوسطاء.
Hamas's leader, who survived the assassination attempt, today said they accepted the deal based on assurances from the United States and others that this war is over for good. History will determine if those assurances stand for anything. The moves towards a deal played out in real time in front of the cameras. Whispered interruptions between the President and his Secretary of State, fueling speculation a deal was imminent.
The Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East.
The words on his note urged haste and the need to confirm how the man who'd forced it through might announce it. Today, he was in no doubt as to the importance of the agreement.
People want to see this work. It's going to work. It's absolutely going to work. And it starts, it's already started. We've signed, as you know. Everybody's agreed. I've never seen anything like it. The streets of so many countries right now, they're just roaring with love and with praise for the people that did this.
Tonight, the Israeli parliament is set to ratify. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been accused of prolonging this war to save his political career and now faces another moment of huge jeopardy. Those who have lived through this war cannot escape what they've endured, but they can and do hope their collective tragedy is for history, a collective trauma of their past that will not be repeated in their futures. Emma Murphy, News at 10, Egypt.
Well, the Israeli cabinet is expected to approve the plan tonight or now, tomorrow morning perhaps. Once that happens, the ceasefire will come into effect within 24 hours. But as we just heard, the bombs continue to fall tonight. After the agreement, all 48 hostages still held by Hamas, both alive and dead, are due to be released within 72 hours. Israel will, in return, release almost 2,000 Palestinian prisoners. The Palestinian political leader, Mouan Barghouti, is not thought to be among them. Israeli troops will, in this period, partially withdraw from Gaza to a pre-arranged line, but still control over half of the territory. And crucially for civilians there, a series of aid corridors will be opened, overseen by the UN and the Red Crescent. Well, the celebrations both here and in Gaza have been going on for practically 24 hours now. Israelis and Palestinians in agreement that the time had come to give peace a chance.
The difference 2 days can make in Hostages Square. This afternoon's celebrations were in marked contrast to the solemnity of Tuesday's second anniversary.
Wow, I'm screaming from happiness, absolutely happiness. Thank you, Trump.
What was your reaction when you heard the news? I wake my children up to tell them, and we jumped. we jumped with happiness, and then we came here in the middle of the night.
The clock tallying their days in captivity may still be ticking upwards, but the countdown to the release of the remaining hostages is well underway. Within just a couple of weeks of October the 7th, 2023, this Tel Aviv plaza had become Hostages Square. The supporters and families of the hostages had made this place their own. Now, remarkably, it seems that within just a few days, that clock will stop and Hostages Square will be redundant.
I was there in...
Today has been especially profound, of course, for the relatives of the hostages. Udi Goran is waiting for the remains of his cousin Tal.
Finally, if we get Tal back, we can mourn, we can grieve, we can go past that rebuild. But what's really important is Tal's children and my children and the next generation of Gazans that are going to live here side by side us.
They're impatient to get back home to Gaza City, but when some of these people ventured too far, the Israelis sent a tank shell their way. But south of Gaza City, there were pockets of unbridled joy. 3 weeks ago, our cameraman followed a disconsolate Minas Jabur as she was forced to flee Gaza City by the Israeli advance. Today, he caught up with her again.
We are happy for this, actually, and we cannot describe the feeling that this war will end and never come back.
We want to go back to our home, but we don't have one, said this child. So the peace deal is being celebrated in Gaza and in Israel. Both sides have had enough of the longest war in their history. 2 years, 2 days, too much. John Irvine, News at 10, Tel Aviv.
Well, getting to the start of the ceasefire, phase 1 has been hard enough. One of those with the inside track has been telling us just how hard. But agreeing phase 2, which includes Hamas disarming and Israel withdrawing its troops from the Gaza Strip entirely, will be even more difficult.
For a few moments overnight, the hope was so blinding that the hurdles seemed to fade away. But this was only one night, one page in the unfinished story of the Middle East peace process.
The rooms were very tense, and everybody was involved, us, the Egyptians, the Turks, obviously the delegations, not only from Hamas, but all the Palestinian factions. The epicenter of all of these discussions was the meeting room where all of our technical teams would huddle down and work on the details.
A senior Qatari official told me he knew even at that moment the path could still be difficult.
The big sigh of relief that you can hear in the room and the celebration mode, although, you know, it's a short moment of celebration.
The deal, based on President Trump's 20-point plan, is a major accomplishment, but there's potential for what looks like peace to become only a pause. Take point 13, the demilitarization of Gaza. Potential here for different interpretations down the line. Then point 16, which compels Israel not to occupy or annex Gaza. Today, though, its far-right finance minister said the IDF should continue to eradicate Hamas, implying he wants the war to resume. One view, but a powerful voice nonetheless. Then there's the deal's vague language, like this. It says the IDF will withdraw based on standards, milestones and timeframes linked to demilitarization. Ambiguity which could leave a path for those in Israel resistant to the deal. And point 9, which says Gaza will be governed under a temporary transitional government, a board of peace led by Donald Trump, with members that include Tony Blair. Their inclusion remains contentious.
Well, I think there is, of course, questions of Tony Blair's credibility lingering on from his role and his leadership leading to the 2003 invasion of Iraq. Also, as head of the quartet, he wasn't particularly effective in supporting or enabling a peace process for Israelis and Palestinians.
Israel's hostages are due home in days, but the work towards peace will have to continue. Rohit Katru, News at 10.
Well, I'm joined now by Emma, who's in Sharm el-Sheikh, where those ceasefire talks took place in Egypt, of course. Emma, we've heard from Rohit there an explanation of some of the major obstacles to the wider deal for Gaza. Then there's this reminder tonight that we're not there yet with a significant Israeli airstrike. The cabinet's still signing things off here in Israel too. How do you read the situation this evening and the prospects, I guess, for long-term peace for this region?
Well, I think the images we've seen coming out of Gaza this evening really highlight what the last 2 years have been like. The continual strikes, the continual death, the continual brutality, and for the hostages, the continual captivity. And I think whilst there is great hope, and rightly so, about this deal, there is also, rightly so, great concern about where it goes. Yes, the fact that there has been this big push to try and get this deal across the line is very significant. Of course, this deal is not that different from what was proposed only last year by the Biden administration. What is different now is the person in the White House and the fact that Donald Trump has forced this through. He's come down hard on Israel and he's insisted that Arab nations do the same with Hamas. So yes, there is momentum. Yes, there is hope, but you know, we are in the foothills of this. We haven't even actually got a ceasefire at this point. That will hopefully come into effect tomorrow. But, you know, we have seen celebrations there amongst people in Palestine. People I've spoken to there during the course of the day, however, are not as elated as those images might sound. I think they are exhausted by this war. And they are fearful what peace looks like. They are fearful for their country. They are fearful how they live in a country that has been completely destroyed and who will help them recover a dignified future. Indeed, Emma. OK, for now, thank you very much indeed. Well, President Trump isn't shy when claiming credit, of course, but this time, is it due? He has hoovered up a lot of the praise for showing the political will to get the deal done, as Emma was saying. Apart from saving lives and returning hostages, he will also be pleased to have got further than the failed attempts of his predecessor.
As Donald Trump basked in what may be the defining moment of his second term,
it's something that nobody thought was possible.
His cabinet competed for obsequious praise.
It is a personal honor to be able to witness the way you lead. Agree that no other president could have done this.
Only his Secretary of State gave a hint of the blunt diplomacy that went on behind the scenes.
The president had some extraordinary phone calls and meetings that required a high degree of intensity.
Solving the riddle of Middle East peace has been a quest many US presidents have embarked upon. From Jimmy Carter's Camp David Agreement to Bill Clinton's famous Oslo Accords. But despite the hope and handshakes, lasting peace has been elusive. Those who've seen it all before are optimistic but cautious.
I have not seen this amount of diplomatic energy being generated in decades of this. However, if you look at the larger picture, will this get us to, even Gaza reconstruction, let alone peace? There are so many challenges.
But after American B-2 bombers hit Iran's nuclear program and Israel struck its military, there's been a paradigm shift in the balance of power. Iran's proxies are decimated, its influence curtailed.
Iran has been the disruptor in the entirety of the Middle East. I think that's one of the reasons that Hamas had no other choice but to agree to this deal, because Iran is not there to backstop them anymore.
Where Joe Biden failed, Trump succeeded. But it wasn't just the change of personality which moved both sides. This shook them up too. Israel strikes on the Hamas negotiating team in Qatar infuriated President Trump and the Gulf states, who weren't consulted.
Netanyahu got on the president's last nerve, but it was clear that he was caught by surprise, so it had the potential to blow everything sky high. And in effect, it did scramble everything, but then the administration used that, as did the Gulf countries, used that to drive to where we are today, which is a good thing.
Whether motivated by a Nobel Prize, his legacy, or a genuine concern for the war's victims, he has succeeded where so many others have failed. The art of the deal, writ large. Dan Rivers, News at 10, Washington.
As Dan mentioned there, it's been President Trump's not very secret ambition to win the Nobel Peace Prize for ending this war, and he claims 7 others. As chance would have it, the committee is in the middle of awarding this year's prizes, and guess what? They are announcing the Peace Prize tomorrow. But the sense from Norway, where the committee is meeting, is that the harder he's angled for it, the less likely he is to get it. Well, James is in Oslo for us this evening. Good evening to you, James. What everyone wants to know is, what are Donald Trump's chances of winning this prize?
I think they're pretty slim, and that's partly for technical reasons and partly because of the pressure that has been coming from Washington, which hasn't gone down well here. Technically, nominations closed at the beginning of February this year, so nominations from people like Bibi Netanyahu and others wouldn't have counted towards it. But there has been real resistance to the lobbying, the demanding, almost the threatening that has been coming from Washington. The other point, of course, is that when the committee who meet and will make this announcement here at Oslo City Hall, when they met on Monday night, they released pictures of that final and decisive meeting. That was, of course, before the Gaza peace deal was known. Now, would they have given it to him had they known about it? Well, we obviously don't know, but possibly more likely. But counting against Donald Trump, of course, bombing boats in the Caribbean, bombing Iran, shutting down US foreign aid, threatening to invade Greenland. These are none of the things that this committee is particularly keen on. That has to be said, if the Gaza peace deal holds, and if, especially also if there is significant progress under Donald Trump's auspices towards peace in Ukraine, by this time next year, well, then this committee will find it much harder not to give it to him. As to who will win, possibly Yulia Navalnaya, the widow of Alexei Navalny, possibly UN workers in Gaza are being talked about. But we'll know tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock UK time.